we've kind of just drawn a line in the sand, and we just don't spend money to boost our posts. That's what they call it, boosting your posts.
So you find that the basic Facebook offering, if you maintain it well, is useful to you?
Indispensable, I'd say, for the folks that we hang out with and that listen to our music, yeah.
And I mean, the other big thing that's a part of it is event listing, so that, you know, it's easy enough to make an event listing and invite all of your friends when you have a show through Facebook. And it seems like more and more these days that's how people are finding out about events and saying whether or not they're going to come. So just having the events feature is big as well.
Yeah, Facebook's nice about saying, you know, like the following 4 friends are attending this event, you know, and they'll sort of post that in your sidebar or whatever, and that sort of makes you aware of it. So that's cool, and people seem to really like being able to go to an event and seeing who else is going to be there, you know, for social reasons, which is an Evite creation, you know, really. But Facebook kind of hijacked that, and people certainly like that aspect of it.
Yeah, I won't be left out because other cool people will be there.
Yeah.
So, but you avoid paying. Is that increasing? Is Facebook increasing the number of ways that they're saying for a little extra money, or, well, when it's free generally, for extra money, you can get this?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You know, either to promote your posts, or I've thought about advertising in the past only because you can target it to people who already like music that's similar to yours or live in a geography that's close to you, or, you know, have other characteristics that you think would overlap with your band. But I've set up
that's like a separate, that's like not a post in the center, it's like a little ad off the sidebar that you can, you know, purchase if you want to.
All right. iTunes was number 2 on your list of things bands have to interact with on the web.
iTunes is probably the most positive thing we've had, right? Isn't iTunes are mostly good and no bad?
I would say that's true. I would say mostly good, no bad. What was the name of their... They did try iTunes Ping, social networking.
Yeah.
They sort of tried to introduce, and that went nowhere, so I wouldn't waste any time with that. But actual iTunes...
What was that? What was that called, Matt?
Called iTunes Ping, and it was a. I'm assuming it still exists, and we actually worked pretty hard and had to pester them to get sort of like handing them out pretty exclusively, and then we got one and we're excited, and then it turned out no one in the world was using it. so I wouldn't bother with that. I mean, it might seem like a no-brainer, iTunes, but you know, considering when it first came out, it probably didn't sound the greatest, because here it was taking, you know, detracting from CD sales in some cases, and not paying, you know, paying maybe 70 cents on the dollar. So at first we weren't sure if this was a good way to go. But these days, with all the streaming options that pick up anything, iTunes ends up looking like a hope.
It's a gold mine.
Yeah. So the only thing is we don't have any experience with. We didn't sign up for iTunes ourselves. We actually signed up through CD Baby. And maybe that's another item on the list, but they're a distributor for us digitally, and they got us hooked up with iTunes. I don't actually know how tough it is to get into iTunes yourself. If you're just an independent band and you contact them out of nowhere, I don't know how long that process takes.
Well, that's a really good point. So you guys had music coming out, you'd done releases, and you had to go to a third party to get noticed by iTunes. You know, the kid who's just recorded a couple of dubstep tracks in his basement, you know, may not get any attention from iTunes, but CD Baby was your way in.
It was, and I'm not necessarily suggesting that iTunes is hyper selective. I've just sort of heard from people that it can take a real long time, you know, to get your stuff up there. Whereas if you've got a distributor like CD Baby in place, it seems to happen a lot more effortlessly. So
what does CD Baby do for you?
Yeah, I've had mixed feelings about them, but I think lately, CD Baby's been more good than bad. Like iTunes has been more good than bad. Like, one thing that Matt and I talked about when we were preparing and, like, putting together our thoughts was that so often, especially with internet stuff, it feels like you're chasing the next big thing. And in some cases, you know, it'll get big and it'll be worth putting the effort into. But it feels like so many times we have put a lot of effort into something that doesn't go anywhere. You know, Ping is a great example. And of course, it sounded like it was going to be great. You know, like it's associated with Apple and it's part of iTunes. Everyone's going to love it. And we worked really hard to get in early, and it was a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I'll add to that getting in early in some of these cases seems to be important because in cases like CD Baby, in cases like Pandora, maybe some stuff we'll talk about later, it seems like getting in early when it's easy enough to get a hold of someone on email and that sort of thing. Like we kind of built up personal relationships with some of these companies, and they sort of know our name. And Rumblefish is another example, and that's actually paid off pretty well, whereas I kind of get the impression that if you sign up for some of these things now, it's pretty easy to get lost in the shuffle. So getting in on the ground floor can be huge, and then even with Facebook, it's like if the earlier you're in on Facebook, the more likely you are to get facebook.com/your band name, as opposed to some other, like combination of words,
The reason...
You sent me an email in October, and it was your CD Baby payment account for Canasta for, I guess, that month. And I don't think I'm betraying, any lavish lifestyles here. You guys were getting paid $23.74 for music that CD Baby had, I guess, distributed, through iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, RDO, Rhapsody, Xbox Music. 3 cents. You made 3 cents from Xbox.
Yeah.
Tell me what that means.
So, I guess, to be fair, our last record was a while ago. Like, we're due for new music. So,
right.
We were writing a bit more when the record first came out, and we were touring more often on it and so forth. But it's amazing how many different services and how many different plays and streams and downloads kind of go into that. Each month we get a report, and I'll say this: CD Baby is great about the reports. They're really detailed, and like they include everything, and they handle all the money for, I think it's upwards of 50 or 60 sites internationally, and we just kind of get one payment. So that's all great. But
so to be clear, the advantage is instead of interacting with each of these different streaming and sales services individually, you can go to one distributor, CD Baby, and they'll do all the paperwork and all the interacting.
Yeah, once CD Baby gets the green light, you kind of automatically end up on all those. It's not like an individual selection process, So that's all great. And CD Baby also does physical distribution as well. So it's not huge numbers, but I think since the album came out, they've actually physically distributed somewhere along the lines of 50 copies of our CD to different record stores across the country. And it's usually a situation where an indie store, someone goes in asking, hey, do you have the new Canasta? They say, no, but I can get it for you, and then they get it through a CD warehouse. So it's been good for that, for sure,
So the bottom of this accounting, you made 1 cent, 0.01.
I was going to say, where 1 cent? That would be great.
0.01 through Amazon Cloud Drive. As opposed to, $8.28 from iTunes at the top, but the bottom of the list is 0.1 cent from Amazon Cloud Drive. Any idea what CD Baby keeps percentage-wise? Like, if you made 0.1 cent, what did they make?
It's pretty modest. I think from iTunes they were keeping something like 7 or 10% of a track. So considering all the work they do, I've got no issue with that. As a distributor, I think they do a fine job in that regard.
Yeah, all right, that sounds fair.
Yeah.
I would be upset if they were keeping $1.75 and you got 0.1 cent.
Right. No, it's nothing like that. They're pretty good, and they seem to be the number one digital distributor of choice for bands that are sort of out there on their own. And they send out a lot of. They send out a lot of tips and newsletters and things. They seem like they genuinely want to help their bands get bigger, and why wouldn't they? It behooves them, of course. But I really think they're out there rooting for the little guy. I do think that. They give me the right vibe.
All right. Well, we'll keep it on the positive tip for just a little longer before we get into it. The final one that was on your list of sites to focus on is AllMusic. So what do you do with AllMusic?
Well, sorry, Elizabeth, you were going to say something?
Oh, I was going to say, the nice thing about AllMusic is that it's nice to have a description of your band fed and distributed across the internet.
It seems as though AllMusic's content, and it's really well written, it's a great site, and it's really thorough, and just about every band in the world is on there, and I'm not always sure, I can't necessarily give people advice as to how to get reviewed. We just sort of got some names from friends of friends. Hey, these people write reviews, send them stuff. Followed up a lot, just like anybody would do. But once you get a review on there, if it's a good review and you get a band description, it's amazing how many other sites on the internet, pull the information directly from AllMusic. I think Yahoo Music is one of those, for example.
Well, I think as a journalist, it's sort of like IMDb. for the movie world.
Sure,
you know, if
absolutely.
you want a good, reliable bio, often better than a Wiki page bio, and Wiki is not on your list.
We have
a Canasta?
we do have one. I just
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like anybody ever ends up there for any reason. But yeah, we do have one. Just to be thorough, if we're not thorough.
I'm surprised to not see Twitter on your list. Do you not find Twitter as one of as a tool that's like, because these were your essentials: Facebook, iTunes, YouTube,
Yeah.
AllMusic.
I guess Twitter got Nick Harcourt listening to us. That's probably our only victory from the only net positive that's come out of Twitter.
Not that it's full of negatives. It's just that it's kind of it's just a lot of it's. I mean, it's a good way to communicate with your fans, but it seems like it's us and the same 15 people kind of talking most of the time back and forth at each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, Elizabeth. You can speak more to it because you spend more time on the Twitter.
Yeah, it's hard to. It can be helpful. I mean, it's more in the realm of making personal connections, where the other things are more business transactions. I think Twitter is more about people you can interact with, like Nick I mentioned. I think that's a way more helpful use of it than just spewing out information about your next show or your next album. I think that sounds like noise to people. I don't think they're interested in that. But you know, starting conversations with people, it can be helpful.
How do you differentiate? You know, because to me, you guys said earlier that Facebook and the evites and events are useful to you, but I mean, to me, I get like 4 dozen event invites a day. I don't pay attention to any of them. How could I? You know?
Well, it's almost like everything has I feel like now Facebook invites are getting to be that way, and I don't know how much longer Facebook invites are actually going to work. There was a time when I think they were early on and people didn't use them quite so much that I think that they did for a moment in time be the place to find out about events. And I think kind of what you're saying, I wonder if in 6, 9, 12 months if people are going to be doing that as much, because people use that for every little thing that you may have no interest in going to. So it might die a death in the next year.
There used to be a little spot, I guess, again, in the sidebar, I think, where it said events, and there was maybe a little number that would show how many events you've been invited to that you hadn't looked at yet, or something that drew you to it, and now they're kind of buried, you know, and it's kind of hard to find them. Like, we still definitely get, we still get folks out to shows using it, but it does seem like they're making it harder and harder, and I'm not sure. I can't imagine that's the idea. Like, I don't know. But then again, maybe it's being overused, and folks just didn't want their screen cluttered with too much stuff. But you really now you got to kind of hunt for them. So it does seem like it's on the downside.
I think so, but it is a way to let people know that it's happening. I think.
Okay.
Still.
All right. Is it a better way than walking around Wicker Park with a paste of a pot of
God.
and hanging flyers?
We've done
in
a lot
places
of
with
that.
legal.
Exactly. We used to be known for being one of the best bands in town at flyering and postering, and we would go to like-minded shows, and we would stand outside of a Broadway show or whatever, and hand out flyers to everybody that came out, and we've done that for so long. But now I feel like, and maybe it's Facebook again, but yeah, people are bombarded with posters and flyers and invites all day long. I'm not sure when folks are walking by on their way home from work, are they even looking up anymore? Are they even looking at the walls? Are they looking at the kiosks? I think they're looking at their phones. I don't know. We've had very little traction out of that the last few years. We do it once in a while for the biggest shows. Get a really cool screen.
Nice screen, yeah, silk screen.
Like the best record stores and the coolest cafes and stuff, but just sort of like plastering around town and handing out flyers to anybody whose hand isn't in their pocket. We used to do that at work for a while, but I'd say it was a while ago. These days, we don't get much love from that stuff anymore. It's sad. That's kind of fun.
Yeah, we did sign up for the new MySpace, right? But why? I don't know why.
Well, all you did is, have you been there yet, Jim? The new MySpace, which I think Justin Timberlake had a hand in launching.
I don't think I have. I don't think I've been to MySpace in about 4 years.
So there was a point about a year ago where you'd log in, and suddenly it would just you're suddenly like, oh, now you're in the new MySpace. For a while, both existed. Now I think old MySpace is gone. For a while, it was like new.myspace.com. Now it's just myspace.com. The layout is really cool. The interface is actually pretty awesome for streaming music and playing videos. It looks really cool. Nobody's on there. There's nobody on there. Nobody's on there. I think we have 32 connections, maybe to a few other bands or something. But it's worth a shot because Facebook really doesn't have it figured out in terms of music and streaming and videos and stuff. And so worth a shot. It looks really cool, but yeah, no one's there. No one's there.
You've both made the point that at some point certain tools online kind of fall off the edge, right? And they lose their usefulness. So you made the point specifically, Matt, that it's good to get in on the ground floor of something new. So you've both always got your eyes open for what's going to be the next new hot, Evite site or fan communication site. What's the next Twitter, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
We
Sorry.
try.
We certainly try, but I guess part of the, in thinking, getting ready for this interview and thinking about it, it's like one of the morals also seems to be, don't go chasing every new everything, because we've spent so much time doing that. And so part of me feels like there's some sense in waiting to see, how it pans out and what sites actually become useful before you spend too much time trying to get yourself set up. But at the same time, getting on the ground floor of a few of them has been huge for us. Pandora, for example, I'd say that's the #1 way that folks discover our band who aren't, who we don't know personally. Seems to be through Pandora. And we read an article, maybe Elizabeth read an article in the New York Times or something, and sent them a CD before they were even up and running. So we were one of the first bands on there, right? And
I went to, he did Tim Westergren, the guy who started it, did a little thing, I think at Loyola, where it was a crummy auditorium, and I just went, and it was him, and he was handing out Pandora baseball hats, and there was maybe 30 people in the audience listening, and so I gave him a CD, so we got lucky on that one. But I feel like this is a case for CD Baby, because CD Baby won't get you on the ground floor of all this stuff, but at least they'll get you in the door when you can get in the door. It's better than, if you're really inclined, you could spend a ton of time and sign up for everyone on your own and try and get to be a part of the next big thing, or you could sign up for a CD Baby and at least be part of stuff when you can.
Well, all of this was leading to the question of you've got two really smart together people who do all of this for Canasta, right? How much time and effort does it take you guys to work on this stuff every week, let's say?
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Recently, I have a kid now, so it's a little less right now, but at the height of it, when the album was coming out and stuff, 15 hours a week on administrative stuff. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah.
And what about you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, I mean, Matt's probably always been more intense, but yeah, 5 or 10 hours a week probably. I mean, between Matt does a lot of our booking, so booking shows takes tons of administrative time, posting, getting posters, doing flyers, which we don't do quite so much, but press releases, sending out emails, putting up stuff on Facebook, sending out emails to our, mailing list, all this stuff. And contracts sometimes.
Oh, contracts. Oh, just to play a lot of times you get a 4-page contract, no joke, and we have a bank account and we pay sales tax on our CDs and we reimburse band members for gas expenses, stuff like that. It adds up, and it's really tough to know what's worth the time and what's not. All I know is looking back, we both get kind of down thinking about all the time that we could have been working on music that we spent on some of this stuff. But I'm sure some of it has given us the opportunities we've had and allowed us to stick around as long as we have. So it's really hard to know, Well,
you're talking essentially a full-time job, 30 or 40 hours a week that you guys
Yeah.
provide.
And press kits for an album, oh my lord, that's hours and hours and hours of work.
Website maintenance, and we've been lucky. We've had folks in the band that are journalists or copywriters, and we've had folks in the band that are web designers and stuff. And so everybody's found sort of their niche and helped out, in one way or another. But without all that talent and all that know-how, and without a few extra hours here and there throughout the week, I just don't know how a band can compete. It's really tough. I mean, this is a great city for music. There's a million terrific bands out there. It's really tough.